Believe it or not, I did not even plant this Roma tomato, and it's one of my best saucing tomato harvests I've had this entire year, just sprawling on the ground, no disease. While the tomatoes in the backyard, they're suffering a little bit. So in today's video, I'm gonna take you on a tour of the homestead, show you what we have going on, and compare it to last year this time, because as I sit here talking to you, there is weird tropical rain hitting me in the face. It's been a very weird year here in the garden, and if it has been for you, I think you'll find this video interesting to show you just how different a single season can be. So in this bed here, used to be strawberries. Last year, actually stole this idea from Jacques, our resident garden hermit. These are all my determinate tomatoes this year. I put these in their own bed because I didn't want any confusion on what I'm using my tomatoes for. These bad boys are gonna be in some sauce this year. Everything in the backyard is either a cherry or a nice slicer. But the clever thing that I stole from Jacques is basically just putting some bamboo stakes in the corners and the midpoints of this birdie's bed here, and then just using really simple twine to kind of cage all the determinates together. Remember, determinates will have a determined height. They'll stop at a certain point in time. So I don't really care about pruning these at all. I want as much tomatoes as I can possibly get and just kind of barricade them in. If I get a little disease, I'm not too stressed. But the weird part about this particular bed, and actually all the beds in this area, is you can see these giant monsters around me. The sunflowers this year were prolific, and I planted almost 0 of them. Take a look at this head right here. This is almost a manhole cover sized head of perfect, pristine mammoth sunflowers. I will be trying to make these into my own sunflower seeds pretty soon, maybe over on the Epic Homesteading channel. But everything else in this front yard is also quite different. I have a secondary crop of corn going on, had some corn earworms in the backyard that honestly kind of pissed me off. So I planted more here to see if I could get some really sexy looking cobs. But I also just had a complete flower bed. Like, never done that before in the front yard garden. This was dahlias. Now, there's a theme I want to get across to you in this tour, and it's that ugliness is maybe also beauty at the same time, or ugliness has a purpose in the garden. Because if you look at these dahlias, besides a couple of these bad boys hanging on, the rest of them look like absolute trash. But that's the point, because dahlias are a tuber, right? Energy is going to be going down to those tubers, where if you're in a cold zone, you can dig those tubers up. If you're in a warm zone like myself, I can leave them in or dig them up. So I need them to die in place so that the tubers have the energy to make it through to next season. So you might look at this, and I often do honestly, and say, oh, like, it's in the front yard, it doesn't even look that good. But I remember there was a point to all of that. The next bed here I'm super proud of. This is my leek bed. I will pull one just for you guys, even though I really don't want to because it pains me because they're so big and so juicy. But this is basically my soup bed. So, oh my God, that is huge. Look at that root system. King Richard leeks. I mean, come on, one of these is gonna make a potato leek soup. So some of this stuff, you know, you could argue I should have harvested this sooner. Maybe that's true, but I also want to use nature's refrigerator, which is the soil. If I can let this last, then I'm going to, and I'll just harvest it exactly when I need it. It's also been a really prolific year for my eggplants, which I've never grown eggplants at this size. I think it's because the weird weather this year. Really heavy rains in the beginning of the year, lower temperatures. Now, as we get into August, September, it's ramping up in humidity and up in temperature, but light is going down. So I think there's something going on there, and it definitely shows in this crop of sweet potatoes. Historically, I've had a pretty big issue growing sweet potatoes, really good at potatoes, mediocre at sweet potatoes. Planted them and let them ride until the heat comes in. Sweet potatoes is a plant you really just want to grow as long as humanly possible before the winter comes in and kills it. So I'm not touching these bad boys until like maybe November, and just seeing if I can get some big old juicy potatoes. The final thing I want to show you in this bed, again, looks like absolute trash, but there's a point, because this is a birdhouse gourd. I planted these from Botanical Interest Seeds, our seed company, and my experiment was, can I get enough of these that I can harvest them, core out holes of different sizes for different birds, because a certain bird will only go in if it's the size hole that they actually want to build a nest in. And I'm gonna put these on stakes and put them in the backyard around the greenhouse and other sort of key areas, maybe by the pond. So I think I did a pretty damn good job here. This trellis has bowed under the weight, but there are a ton of birdhouse gourds, a big success. The rest of this garden, I would say mostly the theme is sprawling, right? Breaking the borders, having it be a little bit more wild. You can notice I've got some random watermelons. I've got some cantaloupes forming. There's actually a massive watermelon over there. And I don't have as much sort of prim and proper design this year, but I actually prefer that. I have all this stuff sort of sprawling all over the place. I let that tomato in the ground just be, and things are way more productive and they feel a lot more natural this year. One of the things that finally happened, it's only taken 3 years, is my dragon fruit garden has actually taken off. So about 18 months is the quickest you'll ever get a dragon fruit to go from a cutting to a fruit. But this year, there have been nights with 8 to 10 flowers opening at the exact same time. One of the most beautiful, magical things you'll ever see in the garden. Speaking of, I mean, look at this one here. This is a sugar dragon variety that will open tonight. And I'm pretty sure if I scan around the garden, the rest of them will open as well pretty soon here. I should have a huge fruit tasting somewhere around October, maybe 2 or 3 months from now, but there is a serious problem in this area, and it's that these pots, which you guys have asked me where I got these pots all of the time. I got them from a local spot called Planter Paradise, but take a look at this. It's pure terracotta, and because of the irrigation and the weight of the plants, the terracotta is actually sort of fraying away. So if I was to go like this, I mean, that's not a good sign. So at any moment, the sheer weight of these, and in fact, take a look at this, the angle of pressure, because it's sort of falling over right here, I could have done a little better job building these things. So I'm gonna have to do some dragon fruit surgery pretty soon. Fingers crossed, but they've come a long way since last year. In the backyard, a surprise, the jujubes, Lee and Lang variety. I think I'm finally getting jujubes, guys. It's taken a long time for these trees to set up, but look at the sheer amount of jujubes I am getting. It is not like the candy, but in fact, it's a little bit better. It's sort of like a weird, smaller version of an apple Asian style, and you can dry it out, tastes absolutely delicious. So I'll have a huge harvest of those. But the thing I'm the most excited about is in this pond area, I feel like the pond area is way more of an ecosystem now than it was before. So we had a huge amount of planting going on, some natives, some salvias, some yarrows. But then on the back wall here where my cistern is, this is where I have about 5,000 gallons of captured rainwater. In fact, some of the rainwater falling on me today is probably gonna make its way in here, but it kind of is a little bit of an eyesore. And so again, a theft from Jacques. He used to have this sort of teepee trellis with a big passion fruit vine. I decided to steal that and build some T-posts with some cattle panel, and it's basically completely covered over this cistern with just 2 passion fruits, one planted on the end there and one planted over here. This is the first season of their growth. I cannot believe the amount of vigor that this plant is throwing out. I would say by the end of summer here, that should be completely covered. And then the pond landscape has really just started to finally settle in. The craziest part about gardening for me is just like the amount of patience that it takes, because the feathergrass, the papyrus, the hawthorn, the lilies, it all takes a lot of time to settle in, but finally it's starting to look really good. And now we go to something that's looking absolutely atrocious, the dahlia and sunflower patch. This little test patch in the backyard, it's about 20 by 20 square feet. Prior years, it's been a cover crop, which we chopped down with machetes. It's been a corn maze where we ate spicy peppers inside of. And then this year it was a once beautiful dahlia patch, and it's now sort of decrepit and dead, save for this little experiment I'm running here. I'll leave you with a little suspense, but we have 6 of the exact same tomato, and we're doing a little experiment, which you'll see pretty soon. So this is gonna get reset, might do cover crops, might do some squash here, but I actually am very excited for some of the backyard orchard. These are 2 different types of bananas. There's the standard Cavendish banana, and then a friend of Epic actually sent out this blue Java banana. The thing that I've had to struggle with is the fact that I've literally killed bananas like 3 or 4 different times. I finally figured out what I'm supposed to do. Number 1, cut off all the pups that are down below until you start to see a flower form on the main, because once that flower forms on the main, it will die off and it will need 1 more pup to propagate itself for the next year. Number 2, I've been cutting off every leaf but 4 to get it to shoot up vertically and not sort of develop too much leaf tissue. I really want it to go up in year 1. And then number 3, I've been mounding it with compost and watering it almost every day, maybe every other day. That's helped a lot with my bananas. I also have the very first vineyard, the Epic vineyard. It is here. So we have this little wire trellis system. There's 3 of them spaced about, I don't know, 2 feet apart or so. And then we've trellised these flame seedless grapes to the system. And what we're gonna do is the second that we get a lateral shoot, the lateral shoots are gonna come out across these lines here, And that's what the grape's gonna be producing on, and that's what we'll be pruning as time goes on. So I don't know, a little bit going on here in the backyard orchard. If you have anything we should do for this little patch, you let me know, but now it's time to go to the greenhouse. The greenhouse is finally taking shape. We've made some incredible improvements to the inside. So Jacques, Paul, and I, we built out this massive cedar seedling table potting bench. It's like perfectly aligned, so it fits exactly in here at a great height. There's one down below. A friend of Epic, Genevieve, she sent out all these rare aroids, so I'm kind of keeping these down here. Houseplant Daddy might be coming back on the channel pretty soon here. But there's some really exciting stuff in here. Some lighting systems, we have a new thermometer, we have these new shelving units in here, but then just the rare plants. I have a huckleberry we started from seed. This has been greenhouse grown. We probably should have planted it. Honestly, I don't know why we didn't, but nevertheless, it's in here. We've got some new ginger starting right there. Took forever to get started, but once it did, we should have a really prolific ginger harvest, I don't know, maybe in late fall this year. And then over here, this plant here is probably my favorite thing in the greenhouse because it is the oldest plant I currently have, I think. It's from the old Epic garden, if you remember on the channel, where I used to grow in that small front yard space. This is a coffee plant that I all but neglected for over a year or two, and I now have actual coffee cherries on the plant, which means that I can make my own epic cup of coffee. It's gonna be the world's most pathetic small cup of coffee, but we'll see. And it's been unlocked because it's been in the greenhouse. So really, really fun stuff in here. A couple other sort of random varieties. We got this greenhouse from our friends at BC Greenhouse Builders. So I'll put their link in the description. You can give them a call. Super nice, probably the best greenhouse builders in the game. But there's a huge change here in this part of the garden, which was kind of our like geometric gridded out section. This year I said, screw that, I'm going au natural, and I think the results speak for themselves. So come on over here and just take a look at how lush this area is. I love it. It's completely filled with green. I have watermelons hanging in little hammocks right here up this very simple cattle panel trellis. The most exciting sort of big gourd thing I've got growing though is this gentleman right here. I asked you guys, what should I do? You said grow a giant pumpkin. I said, okay, let me come on under the shade here. And now I want to introduce you to our giant pumpkin, Craig Poochie Johnson. I don't know why you decided to name him that, but that is what you named him. I put a little call out on TikTok and Instagram, our followers over there. They said, name him Craig Poochie Johnson, so that's his name. We have a little Sierra Nevada beer that we've been comparing him to. He used to be smaller than this, maybe 10 days ago. So it's growing so fast. And this is kind of the fun part about this year in the garden. I've been doing a little more experimentation. It's a little bit more wild, and there's some actually crazy things you have to do to keep a giant pumpkin alive. So we have this platform with sand. This helps protect him from sort of collapsing under his own weight. I'm hanging out under this little shade cloth thing that we've built because we don't want the skin to toughen up while it's expanding so quickly. It could actually split and burst itself open. We can't do that to poor Craig Poochie Johnson. We've been watering it every day, giving it fertilizer pretty much every day, and also burying the stems. In fact, take a look at this over here. We have a stem that we're about to bury. And the reason you do this, I don't think anyone really knew this, I didn't know this before I was growing giants, is that a pumpkin vine can actually grow roots across its entire stem. There's a little node right here. There's this little white spot, and that's where the roots will come out. And so if you don't need to produce more pumpkins, you can actually bury this stem just like this, throw a little mycorrhizal inoculant in there so it gets roots quicker, and then you can just kind of cover over, and you'll get roots out of every single one of those nodes. And that means more energy, more ability to suck up nutrients and water from the soil and send them straight to Craig Poochie Johnson. The backyard row garden, which is what this area is, has had some wins, it's had some losses. Like the corn, earworms got it. I just cut the corn in half and I used that, so it's not a loss, but I still would have liked better corn. But this area was crazy. I had a big garlic failure, had garlic rust in this area. We said, you know what, take our lumps, it's fine, we'll use it for garlic powder. But we said we're coming back strong this summer, and we put in okra, eggplants, peppers, basil, tomatillos. I don't even like tomatillos that much, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do because I have literally hundreds of them. And then in the pepper area here, pepper and basil, pepper and marigold, pepper and calendula, all fantastic combinations. And then the tomatoes, This was a year where I said, last year I got a lot of disease. I had the Florida weave going, which is where you sort of mesh all of the tomatoes together. That caused a lack of airflow and a lot of disease. This year we did a much taller system with a lot more spacing between the tomatoes, and the disease is all but non-existent. There's been a little bit here and there. I will say my production is slower than I would want it to be because I started the tomatoes later because the season started later, the weather was worse. And the weather, as you can see, it is mid-August right now and it's hot but raining and also not sunny. So it's no surprise that a lot of my tomatoes are a little bit behind. But the space has changed so much, not only year after year, but since I bought the property. So over on our Epic Homesteading channel, it literally will show you from the very start of the purchase how I've built this space out. So check that out. And in the meantime, I've got a potato leek soup to make. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.